Blimey, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah, I like the bit where the computer knew what blocks to move around and asked questions if it wasn't clear. Yes, I'd never heard of that before. I wonder what's been happening in that field since the 1970s. You'd think more of that sort of thing would be widespread by now, wouldn't you?
Gentlemen, please allow me to introduce Professor Clive.
Hello, gentlemen. You're both from Amy. Yes, that's right. I'm David, and this is Frank. Pleased to meet you. What can I do for you? I gather you're interested in learning more about artificial intelligence. That's right. To be honest, Frank and I don't know much about it, though your presentation just there was very informative. Thank you. Actually, portions of that presentation were created with the aid of AI, you know. Really? Which bit? Oh, things like some of the music you heard in the background, and I had an AI grammar checker look over the content, and it suggested changes to make it a bit punchier. That must have taken a long time. No, not at all. That's a great thing about AI. AI can't really think as you and I would describe thinking, but it's really good at applying rules very quickly to things. The AI program I used to check my spelling, punctuation, and choice of words has been trained on millions of examples of good writing practices, and so knows how to instantly apply suggestions to meet my demands. So, AI works as your assistant then? Exactly like that, yes. It's the difference between the boss and his PA. The PA may be brilliant at writing down what the boss says, anticipates what the boss needs to have a hotel or a taxi booked in order to attend meetings, and they may even edit or proofread what the boss has written. But the PA is not qualified to run the company, but does allow the boss to do more of what they are paid to do, make decisions, set the direction, and all of their executive tasks, do you see? But isn't there a risk that the PA will one day become smarter than the boss and take over? It's a neat analogy, but do you know of any company in history that has ever done that? Well, no, but we're not really talking about a human PA here, are we? What Dave is saying here is, isn't there a risk that artificial intelligence will replace the likes of me and him? Let me be completely straight with you. AI has no imagination and no ambition. It doesn't want to take your job any more than a dictionary wants to write a book. It has all the words contained in itself, but has no means of doing so, and no desire either. Living things want things. Living things need things. But to give another example, a Word document is just as happy with 1,000 words written in it as it is with 500 words. It doesn't care what you've written, or how you've written it. AI is merely a tool that follows rules and often follows them quite blindly. How do you mean? Well, suppose you say to ChatGPT or AI, design me a house made out of butter. It will go ahead and do that for you. It won't stop to ask you, why do you want to do that? Or, are you sure that's a good idea? Because all it's interested in doing is obeying you to the best of its ability. But surely then, if you say, run my company like the best boss that's ever been alive, it will do that. It would try, but where would it get the data to do that? What rules would it need to apply? And when would it know which rule to apply, and for how long, and with what result? What feedback mechanisms would be in place to help it steer the company in the appropriate direction, whatever that might be? Is the best boss the one that is the most ethical manager that ever lived, or the most financially successful? The one that saw to it that the environment was the least affected by what the company did, or that provided the greatest service to its customers or staff? What is the definition of the best? Surely that could be worked out though, couldn't it? Find some way of defining what you mean and giving it guidelines to follow? Ah, what you're talking about here is prompt engineering. Two very simple but very important words to consider. Do you know anything about prompt engineering? No, not really. Not a problem. Have you ever had that experience at school where a teacher sets a task of work and it's write a poem? Worse than that, write a poem about anything you like, and your mind just goes blank, right? Yes, I know exactly what you mean. If the teacher had said, write a poem about a boy that meets a talking crow, your imagination might be triggered to do something with that, yes? Yes, I can picture doing something like that. The task is made much clearer even though I've got fewer choices. Exactly. The instruction, do anything you want, is not actually as helpful as do something specific. The teacher, in this case, has prompted your imagination. The teacher has, in effect, given you a prompt to do something. Yes, I can see that. What about the engineering part of the prompt engineering you talked about before? Good question. Designing a prompt for maximum usefulness is a specialty which some companies are paying handsomely for. I heard of a US company paying over $300,000 for prompt engineers. That sounds like easy money, doesn't it? But if it were easy, you may be sure that they wouldn't be paying so much for the skills required. Could you give us an example of an engineered prompt then? Of course. Let's suppose I give you each a blank piece of paper and a black marker and ask you to draw a car. Could you do that? Oh, I think we could do that. Is that an engineered prompt? It's a prompt, but it's so vague that I personally wouldn't describe it as engineered, although technically any prompt could be described as engineered. So let's develop this idea a bit further. Okay. First of all, is this a family car, a sports car, a utility vehicle, a people carrier, or what? In other words, what function does this car have? You were both happy enough to draw a car, but would you have drawn the right kind of car that I had in mind? Probably not. I was just going to draw a four-door saloon. Me too. I'm sure lots of people would. It's the same if you say, draw a house. Most people might draw a square base, a door in the middle, and some 4 square windows. The roof would be a trapezium, and there would be a chimney with smoke coming out of it. Honestly though, how many homes actually look like this in real life, eh? Fair point. I'm getting a bit lost here. What are you saying is prompt engineering? I'm saying that one way of thinking of prompt engineering is to think of it as 2 things. It's a prompt, an idea of what it is you want the AI to do. For example, draw a car. The engineering part of the prompt lies in the function and detail. So, draw a car. It has to be a sports car design. The car will be a metallic blue with a white stripe along both sides of the vehicle. I want to see the car as it is drawn from the left side only. I want the car drawn to scale with a length of 17 feet and wheel rims which are presented in 18-inch stainless steel. I want the car to have plenty of chrome accents, such as on the car handles, bumpers, around the headlights, taillights and exhaust. That's pretty descriptive. Yeah, I can imagine something like an IC Cobra from that description. I was thinking of perhaps an MGB GT. I was actually thinking of a Ford Gran Torino. So you can see, can't you? Even with this description, different results can occur. So, as I understand it then, you're saying that a prompt is a sort of verbal nudge to give AI something to think about or to do, right? And prompt engineering is constructing your prompt carefully to get the most accurate result. That's it. But every prompt will be interpreted afresh, and so it's really unlikely you would ever get 2 identical results even with the same prompt, unless you're asking for statistical data. Could you explain that a bit more, Professor? Of course. If you imagine that you ask AI to compose a poem about a flower, it will do so, but it may not use the same words, the same rhyming meter, or the same style each time you run that request. Imagine giving that task to a classroom of 30 children. No 2 children will compose the same poem, will they? Yet they all have the same instruction. That makes sense to me. But what did you mean about statistical data? Let's stay with the classroom analogy. If you ask 30 school children to measure today's temperature at that moment in time, or ask, what is the capital of England, they should all come back with the same information. The way they answer the question may vary, but the quality of the data should be the same. Do you see? I could see that. One child might say, the capital of England is London, while another might say, England's capital city is London. Both are factually accurate, but expressed in different ways, right? Precisely. I'm following along with this quite nicely, I must say. Do you mind if we have a break, though? Not a problem. I'll ask Pal to queue up a few more videos for us. That would be wonderful. Do you think Pal might make us a cup of coffee whilst he's at it?
I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
Ah well, c'est la vie, I suppose.